Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to a relatively impromptu conversation with my friend Carol Ann McGuire in California on Pacific time. And I'm here in Matthews, North Carolina on Eastern time. And we're going to talk about something that I've never talked about online before, ham and amateur radio. But I know that Carol Ann knows a lot more about this than I do.
I
So
know a little more than you
you
do.
know a lot more than I do. So our plan, or my thought, is that we're just going to tell a little bit about our interest in this, but really hear about Carol Ann's journey into this. And I'm just selfishly interested in learning what she knows, because one of the best ways to get into something is to find somebody else that's done more than you and has gotten into it. So we can introduce ourselves, Carol Ann. For people who don't know you, how do you introduce yourself now when you are
Oh my gosh.
we have no idea what our audience is.
I
Probably.
have so many things. Probably right now, currently, I am the librarian at a middle school. It's a charter middle school in Anaheim, California. I love it. I feel like I've retired. I've done a lot of things, but this is like totally my retirement job. I feel like.
What grades at your school?
7th and 8th.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, when I used to teach elementary school, every time I met a middle school teacher, I was like, "Oh, I am not worthy. I don't know how you do it." And I think I've kind of found my people, because they're a complete different set of kids every day. Some days they're up, they're down, they're sideways. You never know who's going to walk in the room, and I love it. I love it. I love this age group.
Absolutely. Well, and so that's a connection that we have as well, because, I went to Cassidy School in Oklahoma City as the tech director in 2015, did that for 4 years, needed to make a change for different reasons. So I went back in the classroom, middle school. And I'm just like you. Shelly's dad was 31 years middle school teaching band and orchestra. And then he did like 10 years of technology. But I was always like, oh my gosh, this is the special genetics to be able to handle the middle school kids and the hormones. But what I found, I really thought at our school that the middle division of the middle school really had some of the best just chemistry as far as the teaming and the ways that they really just supported the kids and each other. And anyway, I loved it. It was wonderful. And then that's what I'm doing right now in North Carolina, is I'm getting to teach middle school computer science and robotics. In fact, we just got our Lego robot.
This is perfect conversation for you then.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of intersections for this. I mean, I'm really, yeah. So, all right. Well, okay, but you got to say some more things, because you're like a life coach and you're doing other things.
I do a lot of things.
So what other hats do you wear?
I'm a coach, so I work for a company called Gallup. So anytime you hear like a Gallup poll, the president is up in the polls or down in the polls, or 4 out of 5 dentists recommend, that's Gallup. And so I coach for Clifton Strengths. So I coach companies and find out where their talent lies and what the talents and strengths are of their team members, and then help them position them in the right places so they get a better return on investment. So I take that same concept and I do it in the middle school. So I do the same strengths program, the same workshops that I do with CEOs, I do with middle schoolers and their parents and the teachers. So it's kind of fun because I get to wear that hat in 2 different ways.
Yeah.
Truthfully, my favorite thing is working with the kids and their parents, because I think it's a game changer when people really understand each other. Sometimes you wonder, like, why am I just butting heads with this person? What is it? And sometimes it's just you're both coming at an issue from your strengths, but they're different strengths. So you're just not seeing eye to eye. But when you realize what it is that makes them tick, you might not agree with it, but you can at least understand it better.
Absolutely.
And so that's
kind of cool sometimes when you step out of your regular sort of your old box or your traditional box, and then you're learning or you're using those skills in another area, and you see, how some things transpose and, are still true, even though the age is different or the content.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you led the Rock Our World
I did.
global musical collaboration project. How many years has that gone on? And I think I'm thinking it's probably sunsetted, but
It has sunsetted now, but we ran from 2000 to 2018.
yeah.
Well, no, I take that back. We went through the pandemic. So we went through 2020 because then we stopped after it was difficult after the pandemic.
Yeah.
The schools weren't in session and
Yeah. And our connection goes back to 2005 when I got to do ADE out in California. And I think, didn't you become an ADE a couple years before that?
2004.
So the year before. Yeah. Yep. There you go. I remember you as the person who they had pictures of who had like gotten in a fountain in France or something. Like there was something that had, like...
Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, it was really, really hot there. And I'm from California. We don't have the humidity like you have. And we were in, I think, Prague. And it was at some fountain in Prague. I don't know. And I was so hot. And I couldn't stand it anymore. I was like, I'm just going to get in this. There was nobody there. I didn't think there was anybody. There was just like me and my 3 friends were there. And so I got in the fountain. I took my shoes off, got in the fountain, and was getting like pouring water all over.
Look what a fun community of.
Apparently, there was a photographer.
Yes, and media using and documenting educators way back in the day.
Of me getting in a fountain.
There you go. And then, well, the last time I think I had you on a podcast, the only time, wow, I should look up the year, but we were talking about Imagineering because we were talking about like the classroom, the ideal classroom, and what that would look like. It's been a while. It's been a while. So
I think I was at the school I was at before this.
Yeah.
Had that. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. So as I've changed roles, we've moved to North Carolina. It's always, I've learned your identity is not just what you project, but what you do share with people and show. I mean, people, interact with that. So I love to share how my love of cooking and barbecue. And even though this is North Carolina barbecue and I'm coming from Oklahoma, it's been really fun just because people have told me about barbecue places and, I got some barbecue that was from the Boy Scouts that they had made. And my neighbor, has this custom barbecue thing. I got to do a video about it anyway. So I do. I mean, I've only done that a couple of years since the pandemic. But and then digital storytelling is something I'm kind of recentering myself in, because when I moved to Oklahoma, that was actually one of the ways that I met a lot of people was around digital storytelling. And that goes back to ADE days and Marco Torres and just really powerful student voice advocates and things. And we're doing oral history right now with my kids in my, media literacy class. And so anyway, lots of intersections, but I'm the old guy now. That's weird. It's really weird to be like, yeah.
I know. I feel the same.
Right. Okay. So ham radio, we have some live viewers. We are going to talk about ham radio. So how did you decide you wanted to become a ham?
Oh, okay. So, Larry Anderson. So Larry Anderson is also an ADE, and he talks about ham radio all the time because I was doing Rock Our World. And we were connecting kids via the internet and talking to these kids. She's like, you should really check out ham radio because this is like the digital Rock Our World before Rock Our World. Like this is how people communicated with people around the world.
This is Web 2.0 before the internet.
Before the internet. Like how cool is that? So I looked into it. And I'm not going to lie, I looked into it, and the first thing, I don't have a book with me, but I do have a book with me. So I got this ham radio book, and the first thing I opened up, and it's like all math and science and circuits, and I was like, nope, and I put it away. It was like, this is not my language. I have no idea what this is talking about. Frequencies, electricity, nothing. I know nothing. So I put it away for a while. And Larry had just kept asking me, like, you got to check it out. You look how I do it. And so he would let me listen to him, and it was kind of cool because from his house in Mississippi, he was talking to people around the world. Like
Did he do something with Willowwood? Right? Is that was
Yes.
the thing?
Yes.
Did he do something about ham
Yes.
there? Okay.
Yes. And it was very interesting, but it's way over my head. I told him, I'm like, I think the most intelligent people on the earth are ham radio operators because I don't understand this. It's not my thing. But I was very interested in it. So fast forward, I was working for Will Smith at his school, and I met the drummer from Earth, Wind, and Fire. His name is Ralph Johnson, and he was a prepper. So he was all about prepping and stuff like that. And at the time, I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Maybe I should prepare for an earthquake and stuff like that. Well, he was a ham radio operator, and so he started telling me about ham radio. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I should look into this. So I asked the kids at school, who wants to do this? We'll do it together because I know nothing about this. And so I studied with a couple of kids in the school, and we just learned about ham radio, and we would test each other, on this stuff that honestly makes no sense. It still does not make any sense to me, but I don't understand. I was going to say I understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand how any of it works, but I could take the test. So we took the test. I passed. The kids didn't pass yet. They would pass later, but they didn't pass the first time. And so now I'm like a ham radio operator. And so it was kind of fun because I had a really long drive to work. And so I would just hook up my ham radio in the car, and I would listen to people, and they would actually tell me where to avoid traffic. So I'm like, this is before Waze, the app Waze.
Right,
so
right.
My ham radio was actually my Waze app because
what years was this?
2012.
Yeah, it's last 10 years.
So. Yeah. So they would basically just give me, I would listen to the truckers and the people talking on the freeway, and because I'm picking up, signals from repeaters on my way to Los Angeles, and so I would just keep my radio on, and then I got brave enough to talk, and we would just have these totally random conversations with people I've never met before, and it was fun. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit of an extrovert, and so to be able to talk to somebody I've never met before and ask questions, I don't know, I have no idea who these people are, but right. They're on the radio and I'm on the radio and I'm driving to work. So why not? Let's talk about
That's amazing. Do you think there's more truckers on ham than CB? Is CB still a thing?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But it was interesting. I met a lot of really interesting people. And so while I was in the school in Calabasas, I met through the radio a ham radio operator that was in that area. And so he would come to school and he'd set up, a ham radio at school and show the kids, how to do it. And, but I met all these people just from ham radio, just on the radio. And so now I need to get my license renewed again. And so now I have my book. I'm doing it all over again, starting from beginning. And I again asked my students, I'm like, hey, I have to get my ham radio license. If you want to do it, I'll get somebody to come to the school and teach us. So I got a teacher, and he's going to start coming in next week, and he'll work with us once a week and give us homework. And he's going to set us up with a ham radio. It feels like it's just like it was back then with a new group of kids. But these kids are on the robotics team. And so I'm excited actually to learn with them because I know that they understand this better than me. And so I'm secretly hoping that they will teach me how this stuff works because I don't know how it works.
A lot of science. Well,
a lot of science.
In addition to our intersection with middle school, finding our ways back to middle school teaching or to middle school teaching, the prepper thing is fascinating because that's really that's my intersection point.
Yes.
Before we started to talk, my grandfather on my mom's side, my mom's dad, was a long time ham radio guy. We have 2 of his microphones that we've kept forever. When we left Oklahoma, there's all this stuff we had to leave. I gave up 5 computers, by the way, all Macs. My blue and white G3 Yosemite,
purple
iMac, Shelly's original PowerBook 100. I've got my original iPod, but like I would not have voluntarily parted with all that. But we do have the microphones. So I was like, we're taking those.
Well, good. Okay, I'm glad you saved that. That's good.
And I have joked in the past, sort of like not even serious, that, well, you know, the reason I love the blogging and I love podcasting and all this is my grandfather was a ham. But I don't know. There may be something to that, because the desire to communicate, enjoying connecting.
I love that part of it.
No, I do too.
That part of it is the best part for me. It's
right.
just like connecting with people and meeting somebody out there that I don't know, and knowing, if I felt like, because it was a long drive to work, I felt like if I got stranded on the road,
yeah,
whoever this ham radio person is that I'm talking to that was close to me was much closer than my family.
Yeah.
At that moment. And I knew, like, it's like you have this extended emergency support.
Well, it's kind of like Apple. I don't know if you saw the event, but like with this iOS. My dog. Hello. Sorry, someone's trying to FaceTime. Why doesn't Wes use this do not disturb feature that's built in? So they have this thing now with the new iPhone that'll be. Did you see this?
I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, the new iPhone can directly connect to satellite for messages, and they have it so that you have to have the phone pointing to the satellite, and so the satellites knows where they are, and so you can be in the middle of nowhere and potentially then reach emergency help.
That's ham radio.
This is ham radio. Yeah.
That's ham radio.
So tell me a little more about your prepper connection, because it's sort of funny. Like literally one time with Jason Knifer and I, we do our Wednesday night ed tech situation room. Like I literally put on a tinfoil hat one time. So I was like, we're going to talk about, because it's
a Faraday box and all the things, right?
One of the teachers at my old school has a generator in a Faraday cage. Like this guy was, he was a nuclear engineer for the Navy, and it's
sounding less and less crazy to me.
So tell me about that. Tell me kind of what is your thought about emergency preparedness? Because one of the reasons that I've explained to my wife, she's like, what are you talking to her about? What do you want to do? And I said, part of my thing that I've seen is that I want to be prepared not only to be able to help our family, and because, hey, we lost power for almost 24 hours when our transformer in our neighborhood went out this summer before we left.
Right.
And like, that can happen. There's all kinds of things.
Yes.
Like, I think it's also good to help others. Like, I think having a servant's heart and communication is important. So where are you with because there's like preppers that are all, it's a serious community. It's a serious community, and there's rabbit holes there. But where would you?
And I think I'm just like on the tippy side of it. Like this is what got me started, is ham radio, because I felt like I'm a communicator, and I would not be able to communicate in an emergency. We live in California. There are earthquakes. This is a real thing.
And fires.
Fires. Yeah. It's real. And if an earthquake happens and our cell phones don't work, then what? How do I communicate with my family? And that's the most important thing, because I won't be able to.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's really what was the driving factor for me. And I was driving a long ways to work, and all the what ifs, like when you're like, what if something happens? What if, and not that this would, I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but I felt like it was, at least I'm doing something active to help myself if there was a problem.
I listened to the book by Ted Koppel, Lights Out. Have you heard about this book? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that was written by a former Pentagon Army colonel, and it's actually set in North Carolina, I think. But it's one time when we were traveling, we've taken a couple train trips as a family, which I highly recommend. Mm-hmm. But we've been just to Fort Worth, and then we went all the way to San Antonio. But on one of those trips, we were driving back from Oklahoma. We were riding in the train back to Oklahoma City, and this woman in front of us told us these stories of Katrina, because she was there when all that went down. And it was, I'm sorry, my dogs.
That's okay.
I can help with this. Can you put them outside or something?
Mine may answer yours, so
we will get it. Talk about communication. It'll be over the airwaves.
Exactly.
But like, it was one of the most hair-raising true stories I've ever heard before in my life of honest to goodness survival.
Right.
And so the stuff with Jason has kind of been more like just about surveillance and, there's all kinds of technologies and things. We don't know what's going to happen. But look, if you listen to FEMA, if you listen to just straight up legit, we're coming from Tornado Alley. We didn't live in the South where the F5s would come. But, in 2013, we had an F5. They literally said, hey, about 5 o'clock, this is going to happen. Boom. We got a mile wide F5 tornado south of us. But, we got a shelter
with this, like, it's helpful because you can listen to NOAA. You can listen to some of these other stations that I just don't get on my cell phone, or I just don't get on the internet. And if it's down, I'm really not going to get it.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to help the people around me. So at our school, I am the only person that is qualified to use the ham radio on campus.
That's right. That's
crazy. Like, there needs to be more of us, because what happens if I'm down?
Well, there's different layers to preparedness. And safety and protection. But I think the communication piece is important. And if you think about not only your family, but like I said, your community, I mean, just think about how when natural disasters have happened, or we've had a Puerto Rican teacher in my last school teaching Spanish who's, had to contact family there. We have really close friends in Puerto Rico. It's not just Puerto Rico, it's anywhere in the Caribbean, because it's like a shooting gallery during, hurricane season, it seems like. Golly. But anyway, during any kind of disaster, it's just so important to be able to get the word out and communicate. So what is your
equipment? To know what's going on, just to know like what is happening.
Yeah. Well, especially our brains, like we're so with social media and our potentially almost 24/7 plugged in world, to think about, oh my gosh, if we had a sustained power outage, let's say, where cell towers weren't functioning, okay, what
happens?
The other thing I want to ask you about your equipment and kind of where you've been and where you are today with equipment. The other thing that's fun, I was just talking to my kids today about the James Webb Space Telescope. We're doing sketchnoting. Woohoo!
Yay!
And I'm loving I'm back at an iPad school. We did a pilot one year in 6th grade at my previous school, but all of our middle and high school kids have iPads. We all have styluses, and I just love sketchnoting. Tomorrow I get to teach about my Wikipedia unit, which is really Wikipedia is a good starting point for research, but it's we've practiced with some of these other videos. Now we're going to do one for content as well as our sketchnoting skills. Anyway, I think that, man, I just lost my train of thought. That doesn't happen that often. Sometimes it does when you're older. So I got so excited about sketchnoting. The James Webb Space Telescope. Okay. Yeah. We watched the Smarter Every Day movie by Destin, whose dad helped put it together. And they're talking about the electromagnetic spectrum and all this. And so learning more, because, I went to the Air Force Academy. I had to take every kind of engineering. I passed an electrical engineering class. Could I tell you a tremendous amount about the math of that, or how, resistance relates to, the formulas?
I think you're going to be great as a ham radio operator.
I was literally drawing that today, talking about the visible spectrum and infrared and how Webb is seeing more of the universe than we ever have before. And that is really an interest of mine to say, it's going to be kind of cool to learn at least a little bit more about how this science works, because we both love technology. We love Apple devices. We love using these tools, but there is a point at which it becomes not magic, but it's sort of impenetrable. It's opaque. We're like, okay, I know there's circuits in there and I know there's microchips, but I don't, we have a barrier. But I think that learning a little bit more about that, my sense is, and that's something I want to ask you about too, is like how that all went in terms of your process of learning to pass your test. But that appeals to me, not just because I think I want to go take a test, but I love I call them wonder links or curiosity links with kids, and showing things and just like asking big questions and, sort of like dropping knowledge, but it's little insights about these different things, which are complex and deep. And I'd like to deepen my own knowledge of that. So,
well, I'll tell you what. So I for any other subject, I take tests very differently. So I love to learn. So I will go down a rabbit hole in a subject and just find myself in some other part of the world in a rabbit hole. I did not for this license. I really tried to stick with it, and I actually studied for this much differently than I studied for anything else because I don't understand it. So how I studied for it is I literally read every question with and they give you like a bank of 400 questions that they could possibly ask you, and they even give you like the other wrong choices. So they give you like the right choice and then the wrong choices. So I studied it, but only the right question, the right answer, where normally I would want to know why is that the right question, but because I didn't understand the science behind it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really bad on me because I didn't do the process that I would normally do for studying.
You're continuing. How long was your license good for? You're having to renew it.
10 years. So I have to renew it now.
Okay. Well, more of it'll probably sink in. I mean, that's
it will. It's interesting because now that I'm reading it again, I feel like I'm understanding some of these things where I wasn't even understanding them before. I was looking at it like I was reading a foreign language. Right. But at least now I feel like I've heard some of these terms enough that I kind of am getting a different grasp on it than I was the first time around. Yeah. But as far as equipment, when I first got in, I bought really, really high-end expensive equipment. Okay. I shouldn't have, because I wasn't using it for the potential that it was. So this time around, I actually got cheaper equipment, but the mechanics of it, like the contents of it, are so upgraded versus what I got before. Like I bought really nice equipment then, but the lower equipment now is just as good as what I got 10 years.
Yeah, the march of technology.
Yeah. So good bonus for me that the technology works like that. Right. So I got a couple of units now. So I bought 2 or 3 units for school that I can teach the kids with. And then I still have my stuff at home. So
I shared a Google Doc. So maybe later, if you could drop in, like,
oh yeah,
what you have and any links and stuff like that.
Yeah, now I will. And it was funny because when I put it on, I'm a part of a ham radio Facebook page. Okay. And I posted there before I bought this unit, and I said, I'm a librarian. I'm teaching my kids to get ham radio license. What do you think about this? And you have like the true diehard ham radio operators that are like, no, they get the more expensive one. And then the guys that are like, it's fine. It does what it needs to do. And I'm in a location where we have access to a lot of repeaters. So it's not like I'm going to be I need higher equipment to catch on to the repeaters. So
do you have an antenna at your house?
I have one in my car.
Okay.
So I have one that like is a magnet and will pop onto the top of my car when I'm driving.
Have some big old mast on your house or something.
I thought about it. I might do it still.
But you don't have to in order to hit your repeaters
no, because our house is on a hill, okay. So we're high enough that I can catch everything here. If I was on the freeway, that's why I have my thing on my car. Yeah. But other than that, there's not really a lot of valleys.
Is your unit that you have in your car sort of like a CB radio then with the microphone?
Yes, and I have like the little the thing you talk like that, whatever that thing is called, or I have it in my ear, so it connects to my ear.
And so do you use the same unit in your car that you do at your house, or you have a separate unit for your house?
Yeah, the one I got for my car, I got a mobile one, so I just bring that into the house and charge it at night.
Oh, okay.
And to get in my car when I'm off.
But do you have a separate one for your house to use that you have set up
there?
No,
same one in my car. So the one that I have in my house, I put in my car and then drive with it. Yeah. And then when I come home at night, I just charge it at night when I'm at home. Okay. But the one at school, I got little itty bitty ones for the like little handhelds.
Okay, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. Versus the unit that sits on your desk. Okay. Like there's like units that sit on the desk.
Right.
that looked so complicated to me.
Well,
I was like, I don't know what to do with that. So I didn't get it.
And with miniaturization and things like that too, you wonder, how much power you need.
I mean, there's enough power in these little units that I can reach whoever I need to reach. I mean, I can reach from Orange County to Los Angeles. That's no problem. I mean, and at least for me right now, that's all I need to do. Now, if I needed to reach around the world, I would just have to know what repeaters to go to hook onto to get that link.
Right.
So it's possible.
Can you send a command to repeaters to connect you, or what is?
I don't know how that works. So I'm joining a new ham radio club. I go on Saturday. It's my first time.
Look at you. I knew you were the right person to ask.
I only met these people online, and they're like, you should come. We have a club in Anaheim.
This is an in-person group.
This is an in-person group.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring all my devices that I bought for the kids there, and they will do their magic on them. They'll make them however we need to get out online. I don't know how to program them.
So they're programmed as far as
programmed
frequencies and stuff like that.
Yes.
Wow.
So I don't know how to do that. So I bring it to somebody. Here's the thing. I don't feel like I need to know everything as long as I know somebody that knows how to do it.
True. And this is true in multiple contexts, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to know all the answers, but you do need to have persistence to find people who can,
and not be afraid to ask. And I have found, and this is just like a life lesson, just ask. All people can say is no.
Right.
And if you don't ask, the answer is no anyways. So there's no harm in it. So just put it out there, because somebody somewhere may have the answer. And I have very rarely not gotten an answer to a question that I've needed. I can't even think of an instance I have not gotten an answer. Right. I just put it out there and wait, somebody will have an answer. They just do.
Have you talked to anybody in other countries? Have you tried to talk to the ISS or done that?
I have with Larry.
Okay.
So when sitting with him at the same desk,
okay,
I've listened to him do it, and I wasn't successful by myself. But again, I don't know. He has a license that's 2 licenses above mine.
Okay.
So he can get on different frequencies than I can get on.
Really?
There's 3 different levels. There's a technician, and then there's a general, and then there's an extra. Larry's an extra.
Padawan, Jedi, and Jedi.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I'm the low man on the totem pole. So I can only get so far with my license. I'm not allowed to get on a band that I'm not qualified for.
Because isn't part of it, as far as bands and power, you can hurt trees and maybe people with the power of a strong system or something. Isn't that part of what you have to be careful about?
Yeah. And they even say in the manuals, this is serious. It's a hobby for people, but you're still dealing with electricity and antennas, and that's not you don't just treat it lightly, because you're dealing with something that could possibly be lethal,
Yeah. Right. So. Right. Well, the science of all that, and I think it's so cool that you're bringing the kids into that. I hadn't even really thought about that, other than talking.
I'm going to tell you, bring the kids into it, because they learn. Sometimes kids learn differently than I learn, and I learn from them, because they'll get it, and I'll be like, "Oh, I didn't get that," and I'm not afraid. I've learned a long time ago, learn with my students. I don't need to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers, and it's actually fine for my kids. I don't have a problem with my kids knowing I don't have all the answers. And so when they're learning, I actually learn better through them, because they'll learn something and I'll go, oh, that's a good way to look at it. I didn't see it like that. So now I can rearrange my brain to look at it and so the more kids that I can get learning with me, or people, it doesn't matter. I mean, this is just kids, but for me, it could be any group of people. If I can learn with a group of people and they talk about it, I'll learn much better through them. But that's how I learn.
Have you done that with just like a book that you guys would buy and go through together, or like
I bought a book, and then the the ham radio operator that invited me to the meeting said, "Don't buy any more books because he's gonna teach it to us."
Okay.
So I bought books, and then he said not to use them right now. So I'm not using. He's gonna come to the class and teach us, set us up in the school. So set us up with some ham radios, and then again, just asking.
Right.
I just asked, and so I don't even have to. He's going to loan us the all the materials that the kids need.
Something just as a thought that occurs to me, I enjoy so much learning on the journey with others, and so, like that could even be a podcasting thing that you all did or your kids did, right? As you go along with the journey, and what you're learning and what you're discovering. I don't know. That's the lovely thing about podcasting, right? It can be so niche. It doesn't have to be tons of people that are interested, but if some people are interested, then hey, talk as long as you want, and it doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm excited because I really feel like I'm a bit of a fish out of water. I know this because I've already passed the test, so I'm not like I don't know anything. I do know some things, but I don't know it. So I'm actually looking forward to this second time going around.
Yeah.
Really learning it probably a little bit deeper and really understanding the mechanics of why things work. Because I did not learn that the first time. I just knew how it worked.
Right.
But not why. So I'm looking forward to this time knowing why.
Maybe we'll have to check in, in 6 months or sometime down the road. Because accountability can be important too. Like I'm finishing my dissertation. Like if I hadn't had some accountability partners, but it's, as I reflect on my own learning, I was like that with math and calculus. I enjoyed physics in school a lot, but chemistry, anyway, there's things that I took that I passed, and I could take good tests. I think there's a lot of us that, we can take good tests well. But as I've become an educator and all of this, and we talk about concept development and hands-on learning and really, how do you understand the concept? I think there's a lot of that, especially with electrical engineering and electricity. Do you guys have solar, by the way, at your house, or have you all done any solar?
We have solar panels for our pool, but we don't have it for the house.
I mean, I would love.
We have generators. I mean, we have.
Yeah, electrical or natural gas? Or
gas.
Yes, yeah. That's one of the things I would like to have as well. I've known some people that have those, and they're just. We got them for our server room in school when I was tech director, and it's amazing. Like there's no interruption. It's just blip on the power grid, boom, it just cuts right in.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's just as an educator and thinking about that educational lens. It's interesting with your own learning, seeing perhaps how you have not. Well, just how you can go deeper with it, and hey, there's tests we got to pass, and there's things that we got to do.
Yep.
So it's my friend Karen Montgomery and I at one point were going to write this powerful ingredients for blended learning, and she wrote this little article that stuck with me about being a beginner and the beginner mindset. Like when you learn to ski or you learn to skate or you learn to do something, we ask kids to do that all the time, but as adults, we don't get into it that much. I feel like that with my robotics a little bit. I went to Carnegie Mellon this summer to a week institute. It was great, but this is my first time to actually teach Lego robotics with my kids, and with the ham radio and this kind of thing too. It's like I'm wanting to get into this, that I don't understand this, but
you totally should do it. You should do it.
Right. No,
I mean, honestly, I feel so much better knowing that if there was an emergency, one, I can help my family. Absolutely. And I can help my neighbors and the people around me. There's somebody that has a connection.
You have the knowledge and skills and the equipment to do that.
Yeah.
To make it happen. Do you have some batteries at home to be able to
everything I bought, and that's the reason I didn't originally get the desktop kit. Right. Yeah. Because I wanted something that's battery operated. So I want something.
Oh, your unit itself is battery operated.
I want my unit. Yeah. I intentionally wanted it battery operated so I can keep my batteries are always charged.
Yeah.
And then I intentionally got a battery unit so I can always pop in a new and I keep a second battery. Like I always keep the second one charged just in case.
Good. Yeah.
Because you never know. Like that's what the whole part of an emergency is. It's not expected.
Right. No, that's 100%. And I think, you know, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. But like I said, if you even put aside, anything on the news, I mean, FEMA, they advise that you keep some water, you keep some food, that you have charged flashlights, that you have, some
you should, like, these are things that are just like normal things that every house should have.
Correct. Right. And I think, there's a continuum of like, how much down the prepper road.
Right. Right. I will say, so you want to hear something fun? So, it's kind of prepper-ish, but like, you have to know, I do not cook at all. Nothing. So my husband does all the cooking. So I know zero about cooking.
Well, you're connected in ways I didn't even know.
Yeah, no, I know nothing about cooking. So, but I have an online Bible study that we run. And so I am currently writing what we're going to study in January. So starting January 1, I'm writing the curriculum, and we're going through Genesis. And in Genesis, I don't know if you know the story, but Joseph is he's been in Egypt. He's a big wig in Egypt, and there's going to be a famine. And so he saves grain, and in him saving grain, he saves all of Egypt and the surrounding countries.
Israel too. Yeah,
exactly. So by him doing that. So I was like, I was in this prepper mode, like I'm going to go buy those EMT, bagged food that you add water. And so I was looking at it, and they're really expensive.
Costco has pretty good large, yeah.
But have you eaten them? I've never eaten them.
I've eaten them already. A lot of stuff. I was a survival instructor when I was in college and did scouting.
I'm afraid to eat them, so I bought them, and I've never eaten them. But we have.
Well, and you want to cycle through it as you have.
Yeah.
You actually, Ideally, you want to buy stuff that you will eat because at some point it goes bad.
So I bought grain.
Okay.
So Bobby went to Kansas, and he bought a couple buckets of grain, and I've been making flour. I bought a mill, and I've been making flour to make bread. Did you know how good bread is when it's made with like actual grain and not flour from the store?
No, I don't.
Who knew? It's like the difference between a tomato that you buy at the grocery store and a homegrown tomato. Like
a
homegrown tomato is like a whole nother.
Or how about pineapple in Hawaii that much they can't ship it. It has to be eaten there. Like
that's right.
That's
what bread tastes like from grain that you actually mill yourself.
Cool. Well, I've had some friends through the years that are Mormon. I remember we lived in Mississippi. They had shown us, like each family there, keeps a pretty good supply of grains. And then a friend of ours that we had gotten together with shortly before we moved from Oklahoma, his wife is really into it. And there's some kind of a German grinder, but it is like awesome as far as taking grain and making flour. I'll have to find out what that is. I don't know. There's fun intersections with this because there's like this practical of, oh, look.
I'm going to tell you, it's just delicious.
Well, another way of thinking about this is interesting is like, what are your silver dollar city skills? So I'm not saying I think this is going to happen, but if we would have a sustained, power grid interruption and trucks would not be running for a while,
right?
That is quickly a very catastrophic thing.
100%.
And, if ATMs are down or whatever, we move into a barter economy.
Right.
So, definitely people that are living on farms and have closer ties to agrarian, but
yes,
I've thought about this. I love the farmer's market because I also love to talk to people, but I love to get, fresh fruits and vegetables. And there's always interesting people that hang out at the farmer's market. And so anyway, you can get into some interesting prepper, conversation.
So what's your thing? What's your silver dollar city?
Yeah, that's
bargaining chip.
Well, I don't know. I've kind of been wanting to get back into hunting. We've thought about bees, and my wife's like we could make candles. I don't know. We really don't. We really don't have something. I mean, I can cook. I mean, I have.
See, I can't cook. We have chickens.
You do have chickens for eggs? Yeah.
I don't like eggs, but we have them.
Yeah. I don't know. We just visited friends in Virginia 2 weeks ago that have a lovely farm, and they're actually it's a farm being designed to have adults with special needs be able to work.
Wow, that's
So
great.
they have a son who's 32 who is just wonderful. I knew him when I lived in Mexico City, and knew him when he was like 3 or 4. But anyway, we were helping harvest. Boy, that gives you an appreciation. Like green beans. Oh my gosh, I'll never eat those again and not appreciate,
Right.
labor intensive side. So I don't have a great answer for the Silver Dollar City skills. One of my friends back in Oklahoma is like amazing. He's a hunter. He would give me venison. I would give him the trimmings from my briskets because he would make sausage. And so anyway, you need with venison you gotta have some fat to mix it up. Yeah. But anyway, he's sort of he brews his own beer. He does all this.
Everybody's got to have a thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's a hobby side of this that's fun, and that there's part of this. But then there really is this let's be prepared. Let's be prepared.
And here's the thing. And this is what I need to do like this time around when I'm getting my license again, is that there are two sides to that. There is a hobby side and a preparation side. But if you don't do the hobby side, when it comes time for the emergency, you're not going to know what to do. So you really do need to play both. Like you do need to know the hobby side, but practice it.
Well, right.
So when there's an emergency, you're ready.
It's like first aid, you can have taken a class and all this stuff. Right. This is why you get certified in CPR, every few years, and you want to be, I did defibrillator training or whatever that is at one point. It's been a number of years. So you got to it's sharpening the saw, But what a wonderful time to be alive, to be able to learn things, right? Because there's so many venues and YouTube. And one of the reasons I want to do this too is I suspected, and I was correct, that you could serve as a filter for me just selfishly in terms of learning and thinking about this and just even like with equipment, because we live in this incredible world of choice, right? Where there's just, Sarah, what were we looking at tonight at the grocery we couldn't decide on? It wasn't olive oil. We were trying to pick out olive oil. And I probably stared at the olive oil for 2 full minutes.
There's 5,000 choices.
And I'm like, bold or save? No, I don't know what it was. But this is where it's important to have filters and people we trust and others that can help us, because in this world of a million choices, it's that.
Well, here's my advice to you.
Okay.
Find a ham radio group.
Okay.
Close to you.
Yeah.
And ask them, because of where we live, the cheaper version of the handheld radios are a great option for us because we have so much around us that will help us.
Right.
Now, North Carolina, you may be in a better situation than us because you're not going to have buildings and, as many buildings in the way and all that kind of
trees. So I don't know that.
Well, I don't know. See, that's where you go, find your local ham radio, whoever that is, and ask them and say, what is a good, what's a good beginner? Because I don't think you need to go, when I started, I dove in all the way and got really expensive equipment, and looking back, I didn't need that. I didn't never use that. I still will never use it probably for all the bells and whistles that it has.
Okay.
You might though. You might.
Who knows? But why not start with something reasonable and smaller and growing?
Yeah, because it doesn't cost that much. Like the little handheld that I got the kids, I think it was only $50 for a handheld.
Oh wow! Yeah.
It wasn't that much at all.
Yeah, there's units I've seen that are thousands and thousands.
Oh, thousands of dollars. Yeah, you can go all the way up, and you can, it's a really serious hobby for people that are really, really into it. You can spend thousands in antennas and you could just keep expanding what you get.
Do any of the groups that you've been connected with, I know you're about to go to this one in person, do they do any kind of thing like emergency practice or any kind of setting stuff up? What do they do?
So the group that I was before, because the group that I was before was in Calabasas, because that's where I was mostly stationed. They did like practice, like we do fire drills at school. They would do practice, like, this is not an emergency, we're just practicing, and like everybody would call in with their number and tell them, what your call sign is and where you're at, and like it was like a check.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And it was great because it was nice to hear. What was interesting to me is that when they did that, how many people were actually listening? Because you don't know, like, you have your radio on and you're listening, but you don't know how many other people are listening to that conversation. It could be thousands of people. So when they do those emergencies and you would just hear check, 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 like keep checking, people from all over, like far away from where you were. Checking in. It was kind of cool to see that, wow, there's really a lot of people that are on.
Community. Yeah. And as we see different, web tools sort of wax and wane, and social media and all these different things, it's cool that the ham radio community has been around for a long time.
The
technology.
And we need kids.
The thing I think is also so cool about it is, like, literally with your battery operated radio, I mean, you're benefiting from repeaters and things like that, but it's not like you need your local internet service. You didn't pay your bill. Your electricity's off. Like, I don't know. I think it's fascinating how dependent we are on the grid, and like societally. I'm actually reading.
That's the thing. Like, if that goes down, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm reading a book right now about how culture is shaped by energy systems. Mm-hmm. It's like anthropological. And so anyway, there's like, we used to, and I'm not trying to romanticize nostalgically the terribly difficult past, but we did used to homestead, and we used to, be able to just kind of live different places, and we didn't have to plug into the grid. So I think that there is a lot of value for a lot of reasons in self-sufficiency, not only from emergency preparedness, but also like on a practical basis of your utility bills and things like that. So
how about just a financial basis, not living paycheck to paycheck?
Yes, I hope we're moving in a direction, and we can, where we can, have solar or have geothermal or have other kinds of green energy, and, potentially be, a little bit less dependent on the grid, and maybe, more self-sufficient. So anyway, there's different intersections with it, but I think you're also this is encouraging to me, because there's a lot of stuff going on, right? But like, this is something that's been a seed, and I've been like, I think I want to do this. And then having this conversation is
you totally need to do this.
Yeah.
We could do it together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this does have me thinking about my kids. I'm co-sponsoring a gaming club for the first time. They've had a chess club, and they have a D&D club. Stranger Things has made D&D in the 80s.
Yes, it has. Yep.
But I don't know. I'll visit with some of the other folks in my department and see, because I do know, for learning, and in terms of also just getting stuff done, doing it with others can be a really huge thing. And it can be the difference between finishing or not finishing. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, where can people find you if they want to connect with you, learn what you're up to?
Rock Our World, Twitter, Rock Our World. I'm also Rock Our World on Facebook. If there's a Rock Our World, it's me. It's on Instagram, all the Rock Our Worlds. Either Rock Our World or Rock Your Strengths. That's my company. That's my
Okay. Maybe you can put those links into our Google Doc, and then I'll transfer those. I'll post this over on speedofcreativity.org, and I will include links and resources to stuff that we put in there, and Facebook group.
So good to see you again.
Oh, well, it's great to see you. Wow. I wish we could connect at Willowwood again. Wasn't that lovely?
Me too. We need to talk to Larry about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could, I've had a chance over the years to do Tammy Parks. That's right. Shelley just wants to hold Tammy. He's not a baby anymore. He's big.
He's not a baby.
Yeah. But, there was a thing in Canada probably 10 years ago called Unplugged that I got to go.
Yes.
That was amazing. In fact, the fellow who owned that, Rod, is the guy who got us together, and his brother owned this camp, and the chef that he had the most amazing organic food. Like that just, but that's something to think about, because in the context of
story chasers, storytelling, and other things. And just what Larry did, bringing together some creative and innovative people to a cool place and learning, but then doing stuff, right? Will you ever forget those car races? That was a car. What was it? That was crazy. I have never been to something like that.
No, never.
We were able to do that simply because who knows, man? That was wild. That was wild. But it was so fun, and to be able to connect with people and just have experiences, and then the way it was also open to families and stuff. So maybe we could do that. Maybe we could think about
we need to do that again
and meet somewhere. Anyway, we'll have to think about that. Lots of good memories.
Hey, Texas is in the middle. We can still meet at Willowwood.
It is. Yeah, Asheville, North Carolina is pretty nice. We got some nice mountains.
That's fine with me too. That's good too.
We can check that out. So, all right. Well, I am at westfryer.com. I saw the last time I went international, I went to Egypt. I still don't know how they got my name, but Gary Steger, I don't know if he gave my name.
Of course. Yes.
We were both, in Egypt and Cairo doing this conference, and the keynote, who I think was the only guy paid, it was everyone else. We just got our way paid, which was fine. So if you're listening to this,
still cool.
I love to go to cool places and just have my way paid. Anyway, the keynote had this one link. It was like his website /after, and then there's the ways to connect. So that's what I have is westfryer.com/after. And so you can cooking or, personal, Facebook, whatever, blog, YouTube, lots of oversharing happening in my life. So it's all
I like that.
There you go.
All
right. Thank you so much. Especially thank you for being understanding of my crazy schedule. And we got our time zones. We are here together though.
Hey, we got it.
Across the country. The magic of the internet and
right.
So all right. Well, blessings to you and your family. I'm so glad to get to connect. And we'll be in touch and have people check out the links if they want to learn more. And if anybody has other resources that we didn't mention, because there's a million of them, I'm sure.
I'd love to hear them. Yep.
We'd love to hear them and learn about it. So, all right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.